Meet Jessica Corwin, a registered dietitian, certified health and wellness coach, and dedicated advocate for real life wellness. With more than a decade of experience in lifestyle and culinary medicine, Jessica helps busy women and parents move beyond the overwhelm and build healthier habits with clarity and compassion. She specializes in midlife wellness, hormone health, burnout recovery, and the smart, safe use of tools like GLP-1s. Through her work with Aurelia Health and Respin, Halle Berry's amazing health and wellness platform for women, Jessica makes nutrition practical, approachable, and evidence-based, always delivered with humor, warmth, and heart. Now, let's head into the interview with Jessica. Yay! Welcome to Singles, Convos, and Community podcast. We are so excited to be here. You probably just caught that amazing intro about our amazing guest. If you're not familiar with Singles, Convos, and Community, and this is your first time here, this is a space where we speak into single parents through honest conversation, practical wisdom, and powerful tools to help you thrive. And so, with that said, we are enamored, we're elated to have lovely Jessica Corwin here. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to plug in some applause here. Thank you so much for being here, Jessica. We're so excited about this. Let's just get started with, I know we did the introduction, but we want to hear from you firsthand. And just give us a bird's eye view into who you are and what you do, Jessica. Thank you again for being here.
Well, I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Jessica Corwin. I'm a registered dietitian, a certified health and wellness coach, wife, mom of 3 kids, ages currently 9, 10, and 12, living here on the beach in West Michigan. And I've been working in the field of nutrition and well-being for about 20 years. My real passion lies in serving women, especially in midlife, helping her better understand her body, respect her body, ditch diet culture, cut through the chaos of all the online misinformation that's out there, and just reconnect with habits that really do feel nourishing, doable, and kind. Really helping her to eat, grow, and live her best life while still reclaiming her strength and her energy, because midlife is just the beginning, right? There is so much yet to come. And currently I do a lot of this work with Respin Health, where I offer group coaching, workshops, community for primarily for women traversing menopause. And I also work for Aurelia Health, where I offer one-on-one nutrition therapy. And it's a place where they kind of blend hormone therapy and functional medicine. And it's just been such a gift. And just from my own side of things, I have walked through this very topic we have today, right? The burnout, postpartum anxiety, autoimmune conditions. I get it. So today, I just really hope to bring an honest, empowering conversation with a bit of humor and a whole lot of compassion.
We are so excited about this. The fact that you've shared, thank you so much for your transparency and sharing that you've been through this. And so we're looking forward to getting these behind the scenes gems. Those of us who are going through this as well and trying to navigate through burnout and hormones and all the different things, the assortment of things that we encounter. But the things that we can tap into that can help us alleviate that and make this journey a little bit better. So we're so excited about this dialogue, this discussion, and looking forward to jumping into it. Let's start off with what you segued to, with parents running on fumes, right? What does real burnout look like? And how can someone recognize when they're just not just tired, but actually burnt out? What's the difference? Because oftentimes we'll say, like, oh, I'm so burnt out, but maybe we're not necessarily as burnt out as we think we are. Like, what are the distinguishing factors?
Kim, that's such a good question. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot gearing up for this call. And there's this classic analogy that I just keep coming back to when I think of burnout. And it's really, the situation is all the more likely for single parents. Gosh, I feel like it's hard enough with a partner. And you've probably heard this analogy where if you drop a frog into a pot of boiling water, it'll jump out immediately, right? But if you just put that same frog in a cool water and slowly crank up that temperature, he won't even notice that heat rising until it's too late. And that's what all this stress can
Wow.
feel like that leads up to burnout. Yet parents just get used to doing it all. The school drop offs, the doctor appointments, the bills, the carpool, the emotional toll, that mental mother load, I call it. We adapt little by little. And because that stress or that heat's just rising so gradually, we don't always recognize how much we're carrying until we're totally overwhelmed and exhausted, on the edge of burnout, or just in burnout, right? And it's not weakness, it's biology. We're trying to survive. And when we take a step back, maybe you get a little vacation or a day off or even just a tiny pause, we can like get that perspective to recognize, oh, wow, that water has been boiling for a really long time and I kind of forgot what it felt like to be in cool water. To answer your question, like what could burnout actually look like? It might not be like a total collapse, right? It could just be irritability or feeling numb, or just not even enjoying things that you typically would enjoy. I remember sitting in the car pickup line at school myself, and didn't even have music playing, no podcast playing, and I just sat there kind of just staring. I wasn't crying, I wasn't really sad, I was just blank, right? And trying to find a way to transition before I was picking up my kids. And that is a prime example, right, of just shutting down. Other signs might be decision fatigue, crying over seemingly nothing. Maybe you're skipping meals because you're just not even remembering to tune into your body, having, insomnia, even though you're totally exhausted, having that tired but wired feeling, or just snapping at our kids and having to go back and apologize later, or feeling just ashamed and trying to ignore it. Because when our nervous system's totally overloaded, it's kind of like trying to stream a movie on Netflix when you have like no signal. You have like maybe one bar, right? And it's just you're getting a tiny bit and then it's cutting out for you.
Struggle, right?
Right, right. Everything's lagging, right? Your rest, your sleep, your nutrients. We need rest and sleep and nutrients to kind of reset and give us some extra bars so that we actually have a better signal there. So some of those red flags could be feeling shame, or feeling that it's selfish if you're trying to do something for yourself. It could be thinking you're the only one who feels that way, who's struggling, who's snapping at her kids. And that's really when it's time to bring that into the light, right? Sharing that with a friend, finding somebody that you can trust, maybe a healthcare provider, therapist, girlfriend, community, right? We need that. And that vulnerability really is such a beautiful way to create connection and help you to feel more back in tune with yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. Just you sharing that, press the reset for me, because we go through the week, right? We're on Friday. This is a Friday interview for us, but it will replay at different times for everyone else. But when you come to winding down your week, you sometimes still have that buildup, right? From going through the week and running here and running there. And so when you have these talks, that's why I love that you mentioned connecting with friends, connecting with people that help you to recenter. Just having this interview, I consider you a friend, in it's the sense of the fact that we're talking about a mutual interest, right? Of the burnout and addressing that and finding that peace. You shared something on your story and I reshared that because that's something I really like to do, is help others reset too. So this discussion, hopefully it's bringing some joy into our viewers' lives. They're watching this and hopefully they're reconnecting with themselves and thinking about, what does burnout look like? Thank you so much, Jessica, for giving that insight and enlightenment. This is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, to this discussion. Great discussion. Talking with Jessica Corwin. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those signs. What are some of the, you might have already kind of touched on this, but what are some of the less obvious signs of burnout? Sometimes we know the obvious ones when we're feeling tired, or we're, wired up and we can't get sleep and so forth. But what are some of the less common or obvious signs, maybe one or two that you can think of that come to mind that should help us take note?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many signs that are taking place internally that we're not even aware of, right? So that could be blood sugar that's starting to climb all over the place, creating that roller coaster, leading towards insulin resistance. It could be, I don't know, if you're spiking up that chronic stress all day long, that means you're going to be feeling that fatigue, right? That afternoon slump, feeling just burnout, exhausted. I was talking to someone just earlier this week, and her whole motivation, her why is because she's like, at the end of the day, I would love to be able to play with my kids, but I am just too dang tired, right? So just trying to regain some energy throughout your day so that you have that energy to do those things that fill you up. I think those are a couple of really big ones. Sometimes it might be kind of just eating, not giving time for yourself to eat the right food, so resulting in more weight gain. I mean, there's so many things taking place within our bodies that are causing so much more harm, and we don't recognize those. We don't even see those labs until it's already too late, right? Until we're in the red.
I love that you talked about the lab stuff, because oftentimes we just center in on, the mindset, which is, all of that is important, obviously, but we don't get to the heart of it too, which is diet and nutrition and exercise and all of those things. What would it look like, without having to go through I guess, because you're the expert, and I know that, explaining it in layman's terms, what it could potentially look like by way of lab work and so forth, that burnout is impacting your health? What would that possibly kind of take the shape of, if that makes sense?
Well, that's a tough question, because most primary care physicians are probably not going to be testing for that nitty gritty. You might notice fasting blood sugar slowly creeping up on you, or your hemoglobin A1C, which is your average blood sugar over a few months. You might see those numbers creeping up. If it's less common, but if your physician is testing your fasting insulin, that could also be rising up. So all of these hormones in our body are on this nice 24-hour circadian rhythm, right? They all have their typical patterns. Whereas if someone is experiencing burnout, they have adrenal dysfunction, these labs, especially cortisol, for instance, is just going to be all over the board. You won't be making your melatonin. You're not going to be able to sleep, right? So there's so many other things, this cascade of effects that happen just from this chronic stress, that feeling of being in that boiling water.
Wow, that is amazing. So it's really important to be mindful and check in with yourself. That's what I'm kind of hearing from you. Check in with your health, make sure you're staying connected with your physicians, if, keeping those regular appointments, as far as your regular checkups, right?
Right, absolutely. And it can be those simple things. Like you said, you shared my story earlier today, and it was simply walking on the beach, right? Just listening to the waves, taking a walk, just being in nature. Just tuning in, sticking your feet in the sand or the grass or the earth. I think even if you have just 5-10 minutes, that can just make such a big difference for resetting your whole nervous system.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's talk about the push through mindset quickly. What are the risks of always toughing it out? Where we're trained, our brain is trained, people, society, social media, all around us is saying, push through it. You can do it. You got it. Do this, do that. Especially when you don't feel like you have it all together, or you just don't feel like you have the luxury to rest. What would be your suggestion on addressing that mentality of push through, and then feeling as if you don't have the opportunity or time to rest when you sometimes don't have as much time? How do you incorporate that in your life?
Well, thinking of a few different things, and one is you don't have to take a full day off, right, to find that recovery. Like I was just saying, it can just be 5 to 10 minutes. It can be building in these tiny moments of joy. So something that's just for you. Maybe it's playing with your kids. Maybe it's having a nice cup of, I don't know, lemon water to start your day. It could be stepping outside to enjoy your coffee. in the sun, right? Or listening to the birds. And taking that little break, whether it's 5 minutes or a full day off, rest, that's not failure, that's fuel to get you forward. We need these little breaks to keep us going, because without these breaks, if we're in this, this hustle culture and we don't allow ourselves these breaks, that's what leads to this burnout. That's what makes us angry, bitter, snappy, not able to do our jobs. My husband's always talking about creativity. That's his line of work. And if you're go, and you don't allow yourself space to come up with those good ideas, right? You don't allow yourself to think, oh, what do I want to do next? What would be a great next project? You don't have that space. Instead, you're just, again, burning on fumes, as you had mentioned earlier, right? And it doesn't feel good. Life is too dang short to live that way. And I understand totally that there are seasons in life where we do have to sometimes you do just have to muscle through, right? There are times that are a lot harder than other times, but that's when you just shrink down those chances for recovery, or schedule in those dates with a friend. Like build in that time, right?
Schedule it.
Right.
Sometimes we have to go as far as scheduling it, right? Because we live off of our schedule. So yes, I love how you shared that, and that tip on making sure, being intentional, scheduling the time if you have to, really following it through the way you need to, so you won't find yourself crashing, for lack of better words, and burning, right? With that said, this is a perfect segue to eating, because we know that eating plays a major role, and this is really in your neck of the woods. I know everything else is too, but this is, you live, breathe, and eat. You do this, and so, and the things that we often neglect. And so really want to address the eating part of it, because especially for our single parents, sometimes this can be very taxing, affordability wise, lifestyle wise, time wise. Nutrition advice can sometimes feel unrealistic, especially in single parent homes. What are a few affordable, no stress wellness or food tips that actually work for the busy single parents that you have?
Oh yeah, happy to share. And I'd love to start with, I do a lot of scratch cooking, but I also have long since let go of that whole perfect mom pressure, right? If we have fish sticks, sweet potatoes, frozen peas, that totally counts as dinner, and I am happy. We have more than one food group, getting some protein and fiber. We're doing great, right? It does not need to be a perfect meal. I certainly have a long list of what I call no recipe recipes. So just easy meals we can throw together. When my kids were really little, babies and toddler phase, that's when you can't make one more decision at the end of the workday. So I used to keep a list of these on our refrigerator in our kitchen of just, we'd have a stocked kitchen. So I'd know, okay, we have the ingredients. I could quickly make a black bean quesadilla, nice whole grain tortilla, something simple, throw some fruit on the side, easy meal. Or we would always have turkey burgers and whole grain buns, fresh tomatoes, maybe sweet potato fries we'd whip up, like something just simple, but those recipes that don't really require a whole lot of cooking or work. You can just toss them together, get them on the table. I have such a long list of those. Even we always keep frozen fajita vegetables, frozen stir-fry vegetables. You can easily toss those with some rice. You can either have it in their freezer, make it in bulk, or buy that microwave rice, toss it with frozen grilled chicken or some diced tofu, edamame, right? You can make these simple meals that don't have to require a ton of work, and it's often faster than ordering in takeout. Shopping in season. Well, here in Michigan, we've been doing a lot of berry picking, so we have lots of fresh berries. I'm sure the kids probably eat more in the field than we actually even buy too. So talk about a great deal, bringing them home. But it makes for a simple, last year we made a simple blueberry peach crisp or cobbler. I don't know. But we just tossed those straight together in a pan, made a simple topping, and it's a very inexpensive, easy dessert that's pretty nutritious, right? It fuels everybody at the table. So it doesn't have to be Pinterest worthy, right? I really like to follow the protein, fiber, fat, and color formula. I like to fill half the plate with vegetables, especially non-starchy vegetables like your cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens. Make a quarter of the plate a good palm-sized serving of protein, and then the other quarter a starchy carb, whether it's a grain, sweet potato, whatever it might be. It really helps to keep you full, fueled, and grounded throughout your day. Again, going back to that blood sugar and keeping you nice and steady, right? My kids don't want a hangry mom, and I don't want hangry kids. So we all need some solid meals.
All live together in harmony, right?
It's so important just to reframe the idea of these meals. Because even peanut butter and jelly and cucumbers, like something just simple, that's still a win, right? You're still getting good fuel, gonna nourish everybody at the table. Not every meal needs to look like a Pinterest board. It just fancy isn't necessary, right? The fuel is. We need that fuel to keep us going. So it doesn't need to be beautiful. I mean, I do find that I love when I have the opportunity to make a plate look beautiful. I love seeing the colors in food. I think it can be an art.
Yeah.
But not every meal is like that, let me tell you.
No, you don't have the time or energy.
Right.
I have to do a shameless plug, Jessica, as you were sharing all these wonderful ideas. I'm like, I was thinking of your feed on Instagram and your website. So I have to just plug it in there. If you want more of this, because she shared so graciously these wonderful ideas, but she has a plethora of ideas, and she shows you exactly kind of how to do it and gives you those ideas. So if you're not following Jessica, I highly recommend that you do, so you can get these tips, and you're sharing them daily and weekly and here and there. It's just awesome. Your feed is wonderful, Jessica. I meant to tell you that too. So
thank you, Kim.
Head on over there, follow Jessica. What's your Instagram? Or you know what? You don't even have to share. We'll make sure we put that in the description. Head to our description below, and you can tap right into that. So with that said, this is a perfect ideal segue into midlife wellness, and this is for both men and women. We're talking about a lot of our community are within the ages of 40s, in their 40s and 50s, Jessica. And our bodies, I have to put myself in this too, without telling my exact age. Not that I'm ashamed of it. Just don't want to alarm anybody. But our bodies are changing. What are some shifts people might notice at midlife that often catch them off guard?
Good question. This is something I talk about all the time. And first, I really just want to say that hormonal shifts, these changes in your body in midlife are completely normal. It's not a personal failure. It's not anything you did wrong, nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a part of our body's natural evolution. And I'd love to, for the women, could we define a couple of terms here for this midlife shift?
Please.
So for women, maybe even in their late 30s, early 40s, they might be starting perimenopause, right? That's this whole transition leading up to menopause. So it could be up to 10 years, sometimes a tiny bit more, but it might be a lot less, it might be 2 to 4 years. And then menopause itself is one day. That's just after you've gone 12 months in a row without a period. And then the rest of your life, you're in postmenopause. And this time of perimenopause is just tumultuous. And I know we're speaking to both men and women, but for women in particular, this season is a lot. And there's a lot of changes taking place that women are going to be feeling. And it might begin typically with progesterone, one of our main hormones, starting to plunge. And as that starts dropping, you might notice more trouble sleeping, right? More insomnia, or waking up at 2, 3 in the morning with racing thoughts and not being able to go back to sleep. It could be anxiety, heart palpitations. I mean, the number of women who have raced into their doctor thinking that they're having a heart attack, something's wrong, and it's because of progesterone. Wow. Mood swings, these panic attacks. And then along that same time, our estrogen is just starting to do this. She's not just dropping, she's just on a roller coaster doing as she pleases. And you might notice from that brain fog, fatigue, exhaustion, truly crying over spilled milk, irregular periods, bloating, maybe more belly fat. And many women also, I mean, as the dietitian, I talk a lot about gut health and digestion, and a lot of people start to notice more bloating and constipation, maybe looser stools, because our hormones really play a huge role in how our digestion and microbiome actually function. And so you're not losing it. There's a big reason that people refer to perimenopause as reverse puberty, right? It's just a whole shift in what these hormones are trying to do to us. So there's a whole lot going on. And to speak to the men with hormones, bit different. Men typically lose about a 1% of testosterone each year, starting around age 30 or 40, whereas women might lose up to 80 to 90% of her estrogen over just a few years in this transition. So totally not a gentle slope, right? There's no easing into this. It's a hormonal cliff we're jumping off. And that's why a lot of times these symptoms can just feel so brash and intense as you're entering this period. And a lot of people just feel a bit out of control. They try all these things they used to do in their 20s or maybe early 30s, and none of these things to make them feel better or feel good in their clothes are actually working anymore. So there's so many different factors coming at you from all different sides, right? I mean, we have hormone receptors everywhere in our body. It is not just in our uterus and ovaries. There's a whole lot going on.
That's amazing. I'm just processing. Yes, there's so many changes going on. I love how you touched on for women and also included how it impacts men, their hormones as well. We did post an article this past week. Head to a Single Mom Society to catch that article. It also has links to the amazing programs, services that Jessica works with, Respin being one of the main ones. And we talked about the hormonal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that before the end of the interview. But we also included a video about the M Factor, which is a great program, a great commentary documentary about menopause. And so head over there to get some information as well. Jessica, when you were sharing, I was thinking about a specific question, and I don't want to put you on the spot because I don't know if this was one of the ones we had discussed that we were going to be discussing, but are there any types of foods that women and men that you would recommend them tapping into that can help with the changes that are taking place, as well as foods that they should avoid as well?
Yeah, that's such a great question. One thing that I think we could all use more of, particularly during perimenopause, are those cruciferous vegetables. So if you're not familiar with what those are, I mean, it's not just broccoli and cauliflower. That could be arugula, kale, a lot of these bitter greens, they come in and they're so powerful because they contain sulfur and this fancy compound that's called indole 3-carbinol. And they really help our liver process and break down estrogen so we can get rid of this excess estrogen that we've used up. We have this nice system going on in our body where it's taking the estrogen that our body's already used, packaging up and excreting it, right? But if our gut and our liver aren't actually working to be able to support that, we're just recycling that back up. And that's where a lot of times online you hear the term estrogen dominance, and that just means your body's having a hard time. I mean, it could be actually from multiple things, but one way is if your body's not able to excrete that estrogen, it's just going to keep building up. And that's when you start to feel what we like to call the 4 Bs, that breast tenderness, bloating, brain fog, and breakouts. Again, going back to that reverse puberty, right? Having that acne come right back. So these cruciferous vegetables are so supportive of our liver and this hormone metabolism. And it's so beneficial. And even if let's say you're stocking, you're like, well, I'm getting a lot of frozen broccoli, I'm good, right? Some of that benefit's lost when it's frozen because of that flash freezing process, but that's no problem. Just sprinkle in some fresh arugula, some baby kale, have something else on the side. It doesn't need to be this huge amount, right? These greens also cook right down. So it's very simple. You could add broccoli or cauliflower to your veggie tray, roast some Brussels sprouts, for a sheet pan meal things. There's so many beneficial things. Getting enough fiber throughout the day, again, that nourishes our microbiome. So just, again, if you're going back to that plate where you have that protein, fat, fiber, and color, the fiber and color in particular are so nourishing for our gut microbiome. And that's something that we see that our variety, our diversity and these good bugs starts to decline as our estrogen declines. So with age, we just start to lose some of this diversity, and we want that diversity that's where our immune system stems from, right? We have so much goodness coming out of our gut microbiome. So we really want to fuel it with fiber, phytonutrients, all this color on our plate. So that's
Mm.
another huge piece they have in there. And as far as things to avoid, nothing too shocking here. Like keep an eye on alcohol. We don't process alcohol quite as well as we age. You might notice you used to be able to have 4 or 5 drinks. Now it's like 1 or 2, and it's like, whoo, I'm already gonna have a hangover tomorrow, right? It makes it a little bit harder. Your body
Right.
can't quite keep up with that.
What is that
And
about? Why is because the body's not processing it the same?
we don't have quite the same amount of alcohol dehydrogenase, which is just an enzyme that helps break down our alcohol. And also another factor that can come into play is if you're taking in that alcohol, I mean, that is in itself a toxin for our body, right? So anytime we're taking in alcohol, that's our liver, everything in our body says, okay, we are dropping every other job. We need to focus on this alcohol, process it out. So if your body's also trying to break down the carbs you just took in or break down your estrogen to process it out, all that's just getting backed up. So you're building up that estrogen, building up that blood sugar, which leads to more weight gain, more inflammation. So alcohol is, I mean, it sure can be a treat, a special occasion, right? No doubt about that. But we just have a much harder time and we feel those effects. And alcohol can also ruin our sleep. It might help you drift off.
This is a depressant. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can help you drift off to sleep, but then your body is going to experience this low blood sugar. You're going to come right back to life in the middle of the night and then not be able to sleep all over again, right? So the same thing, if you're having that balanced plate, you're supporting all of these different processes within your body versus you're just grabbing a bowl of cereal and fat-free milk, right? Like that's just pure carbs. That's not going to help you out very much. Or I don't know, just a handful of crackers or pretzels, and that's lunch, right? Or running on coffee. Like those things are just so not beneficial. That's resulting in that higher stress level, higher blood sugar level. We're just, again, doing this all day where we want our blood sugar to just have these nice little lifts throughout the day and not these crashes. Because if our blood sugar plummets after just having what I always call naked carbs, right? We want to put some clothes on our carbs, like some protein, fat. But if we're having these naked carbs, or we get that nice energy burst initially, and then it plummets. And then we feel that irritability. You might feel anxious. You might feel your heart racing. And then you're just starving all over again.
Wow.
So we're reaching back for some more carbs.
So would you recommend kind of veering away from carbs as much? Or, I mean, I'm not saying eliminate it completely, but would you recommend, I mean, because we know that excess carbs are not necessarily good for you anyway, no matter what age. When you're in this stage of midlife living, would it be something that we kind of need to veer away from a little more?
That's such a good question. My answer would surely differ for each person depending on her activity level and what's going on. Typically, I like to see carbs and protein pretty well balanced. And I love to see the carbs we're choosing to be fiber-rich carbs. So those are going to be our more plant-based carbs, right? Our whole grains, our beans, our lentils, our legumes, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables. Those sources of carbs are so beneficial. They're nourishing our gut microbiome. Our brain loves a steady supply of glucose. So those are nice, steady releases of carbs and of sugar into our bloodstream versus if we're just grabbing a big glass of juice or, a sweetened coffee at the coffee shop, right? Like those things are just simple carbs versus the complex fiber-rich carbs that we can get in whole foods. So a big difference there. You can still have some of the fun carbs, right? Just those sugary drinks. We just want to keep those more limited because those ones don't come with any protein. They don't come with any fiber. So they just give you that straight shot into your blood sugar. Whereas the foods, those carbs that come with fiber, and maybe you're balancing them with some healthy fats or some protein, they're going to have a much slower, steady release into your bloodstream. And it's going to keep you fueled long into your next meal versus these quick little hits that just leave you starving in an hour.
Sharing these wonderful tips with us that are reasonable. They're not unrealistic, realistic. These are just quick fixes that we can actually make that can actually make the difference with the types of vegetables and the carbs and just cutting a little bit of the drinking and just those different things. These are things that can really, truly make the difference in how we overall feel and our health and our wellness and how we show up for ourselves and our families.
Well, and I like one thing that I've done for so long is like just batch prep things. So make a lot of things at once because some nights you are just too busy, right? So Sundays, gosh, I know my kids are getting a lot bigger. So now I have to do a lot more. It was easier when they were smaller, where I could just do one sheet pan of a bunch of chicken breasts and one sheet pan filled with diced roasted vegetables. So it might be onion, sweet potato, butternut squash, parsnips, gosh, blank kohlrabi, whatever. We'll just throw a bunch of different vegetables on there. And then I have those diced up so we could have those, of course, for that meal. Might be a simple side another night too, or I might just toss them into an easy lunch to make a quick power bowl or toss them onto a salad just to give it more texture. I kind of am not impressed with plain salads, but just those simple things. But if you're just making that ahead of time, you can then take that chicken and turn that into so many other meals, right? I mean, you could throw that inside that quesadilla instead of the black beans. Just so many simple things. I think that can be so helpful. And when we do these things to prep ahead for ourselves, whether you're batch prepping smoothies for the morning or some chia pudding or overnight oats, your future self is so grateful to not have to do that extra legwork, especially on, those mornings you're trying to pack kids up for camp or racing off to school. It's a lot, right? So you can have these things prepped ahead of time. Another great example is just little egg muffins, right? You can have those ready to go. And just, again, looking back to that list of those no recipe recipes. So you just, okay, I know we have the ingredients for this. This takes me 10 minutes. Okay, we'll whip this together and be on our way.
Great information. In the meantime, we have this wonderful information. You can always hit replay, rewind. I mean, just save this information, store this, and share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with people that are in need of this or interested in this. This is good, sage information. Thank you so much for this. Jessica, this has just been an incredible discussion. Honestly, we could go on and on. I really could. There's so much more I would love to talk about. And that's why we're hoping we can bring Jessica. Jessica will agree to come back for a part 2, and we'll be delving into more for our She Shift. But for today, we just want to thank you for this wonderful interview, for taking this time out with us. Last question I kind of want to throw at you is, are there any simple tools that our community, our viewers, our audience can tap into, apps or journaling practices that you would recommend for setting and tracking their wellness goals and, just keeping abreast and keeping attuned with that?
Well, that's a great question. I don't even know that we need all of the fancy apps. Sometimes it could just be jotting things down in a notebook, right? We all experience emotional eating. So it's kind of journaling through that, writing down, okay, wait, I ate this second piece of cake, but did I actually want that? What was going on in my head when that experience occurred? That could be something just to keep track of for women who are still having a regular cycle. Keeping an eye on that with an app like Clue can be so beneficial because it kind of warns you. I love that it'll show like, okay, cloudy days ahead for when you might be experiencing PMS. And some women, as they approach perimenopause, it might look more like PMDD, which is more severe PMS symptoms where you do kind of shut down or feel more anxious and more depressed in those final days before your period comes. So that could be a great tool just to warn. Be able to brace yourself. My husband used to joke that he wanted that warning of the cloudy days ahead and to share that app with me. That's a nice one. As far as food tracking, I really love the app Chronometer. I can share the link for that one, but it's just a really nice tool, and you can share that with a health professional if you're working with her. I review a lot of food journals, so that can be something to work through as well. Just sometimes. And I would never ask anyone to food journal or to log their meals every single day. It's too much. It can feel obsessive after a while. It's just a lot. But it is interesting if you even do it one day during the week, one day on the weekend, because in your head, you might be thinking, I'm doing great on protein, right? Or I'm doing great on fiber. And then you actually log it in. It's like, oh, I did not know that meal had 75 grams of carb and only 7 grams of protein. It just can be eye-opening to go through that. Gosh, even as a dietitian, I remember I did that for myself after each pregnancy. after I was kind of done breastfeeding. I was trying to, get myself back in check because you're eating a lot more when you're breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And it was eye-opening for me too. So you don't have to do that every day though, but I think that can be a really helpful tool. I think there's so many great apps as far as just meditations as calming, having those breathing practices. Like I said, especially with that feeling of burnout when you're just overextended, even if you just sit down and take 5 deep belly breaths before you eat. Gosh, so many women that I see who have been diagnosed with IBS or are experiencing all these different digestive issues.
Wow.
So much of it is because of our stress, because we're always either in rest and digest, so our body can actually break down our food, or that fight, flight, or freeze. And if you're in that state of mind and you're taking food in, your brain's like, we are not focused on digestion. We have all our blood going out to your muscles so you can sprint away or fight this tiger.
Wow.
So that will leave you with more bloating, indigestion, maybe constipation, versus if you take that meal, sit down, without distraction, take a few deep breaths, actually feeling your stomach expand, come back in, not just your chest. You want your belly to expand. It can really help to reground you back into your body. And you're as you're doing that, you're smelling your food, maybe seeing your food, and your brain's like, oh, okay, that tiger's not coming. We can take a minute here. We can actually crank up our stomach acid, get these digestive enzymes rolling, and bring the blood back to our digestive tract so we can actually process this food. And that in itself can make such a difference to support our digestion and nutrient absorption to fuel our bodies forward.
Wow. That was so eye-opening to hear that. Like the way that you receive your food.
Oh yeah.
Your presence of state when you're about to eat can make a difference in how you digest it, how you process it. I'm sure we've heard that at some point, but I don't know that we actually take that into account as often as we should. That just doing that breath work or doing a little bit, taking a breath before you actually sit down and eat. I've always heard that it's important for you to be mindful of your chews, how you're chewing and taking the time to chew versus because sometimes food is so good and you're just like, and you're not really enjoying it the way that you should, and your body is not processing it. So I've always kind of been aware of that, but the introduction of this and talking about this and reminding us that where we are when we prepare to eat mindfully, right, plays a role in how we take it in and how we digest it.
Challenge everybody listening to find what are your non-negotiables? What are your grounding practices, whether it's that cup of water in the morning, maybe doing some stretches while your coffee's brewing, something simple enough. Maybe you're closing your day out with, a good book or meditation. But think of those little practices you do for yourself, little acts of self-care. And those are the things that can keep you back grounded into your day, help to maybe give you a little dopamine hit and expand that window of tolerance so you can handle the stressors coming at you later in the day or tomorrow.
Yes. Beautiful. But how can others stay connected with you and find out more about what you do?
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm, again, honored to be here, and I'm happy to remind listeners not only about Respin and also that midlife is not a crisis. It's a catalyst. We need to listen to our body. She's sending us all these signals, right? And that's something we discuss a ton at Respin Health, which is my main gig. And through my work there and at Aurelia Health, I really help women untangle this diet culture, right? Understanding what's going on inside of her body and reconnecting to habits that feel kind, that feel like self-care, that feel realistic and sustainable. And I really just kind of serve as a guide, maybe someone in the passenger seat, right? You're doing the driving, and yet maybe I'm sitting there on the side, just offering you the pros and cons of either choice you might be making up ahead. And there's just, as I mentioned before, there's so much information online. It can feel so overwhelming. And last night's group coaching call, that's what we were talking through. They're like, wait, but I just saw this. What about this? And what about this? There's all these things like, am I supposed to do this, and this? And it just feels so daunting. So we kind of break some of those things down. So at Respin Health, we offer group coaching. We offer some one-on-one coaching as well. We do a lot of workshops. And I think the biggest gem is we have this beautiful community where people can just come in, share their story, find out that they're not alone because they have a million other women jumping in. Oh, I went through that. Oh yeah, here's what I did, right? This works. Or yeah, I felt that too. I'm so sorry you're going through that, right? And it's just that camaraderie, that sisterhood. And that's something that is so missing. Like everywhere I've worked prior to, everyone wanted that group, that community space, and it just didn't exist. So this is a beautiful space, and we are just launching the Respin Clinic, where women can come in, meet with a provider for hormone therapy, and even before that, get the 101. Like,
Wow.
what is hormone therapy? What are the pros and cons? What are my options? What are the different application formats, right? What's going to work for me? And there's this beautiful course they can kind of go through and follow-up visits. I don't know. It just looks like this beautiful thing, and they're making it super affordable. And my work at Borrelia Health, that's where we do a lot of functional medicine, can really help you get down to that root cause. You can meet with both RN, registered dietitian, kind of walk you through. There's a lot of hand-holding there, not exactly coaching, but still that motivational interviewing just to help guide you along. Because a lot of women do know what to do. They just need that accountability.
We will be staying connected with you. Our audience will be staying connected with you. Single Mom Society now has the She Shift, and we really plan on tapping into and working very closely and making sure that our community is connected with you and Respin and Aurelia and all of these wonderful things. There's no excuse now for women or men, for that matter, to walk around and not have the resources or know where to tap into it, because look, here they are right here at our disposal, and we love that, and we're so happy to be able to share this. So thank you again, Jessica, for taking the time to share with our audience and taking the time with singles, combos, and communities. We cannot thank you enough for this. This has been such invaluable information. I just feel amped up for what's next, versus, and we're hoping that our audience feels that way. Those of you who have kind of struggled with this, hopefully you're taking these gems and now know and have that reassurance that you have more information and feel more assured with this journey. So thanks again, Jessica, and to every single parent listening. Your wellness matters. It's so important to you, to us, to our community. You deserve to feel good, not just need it.